Hi and welcome back to my Ed284 Foundations of Inclusion Teaching video blog. Today's essential question is, how is the student learning experience affected when DI and RTI are implemented effectively? Well, the first thing we want to answer is, what are DI and RTI? So let's start with DI. DI stands for Differentiated Instruction. So differentiated instruction is the idea that in one classroom you're going to have a group of kids who come from all different backgrounds. And within this set of kids, we're going to have kids who learn differently. So an effective teacher would basically assess the student group and provide different avenues of instruction to the various learning abilities of the students. Take, for example, let's say it's an English class and we are reading Grapes of Wrath. Okay, so there are those students who can just get the Grapes of Wrath novel, read it, and comprehend it. Well, on the other hand, there are students who are going to read Grapes of Wrath and think, oh my gosh, what is this book? These words mean nothing to me. So then the teacher's like, okay, well, what can I do to help these students who aren't reading Grapes of Wrath from the book? Ding, ding, ding. Let's show the movie. Although the movie is not an accurate depiction of the book often, at least the students have something to compare it to. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I remember reading that in the book. Now I can see it. I can see what's happening. RTI stands for Response to Intervention. And what response to intervention is that it's this idea of early intervention where educators step in and attack student learning problems before they escalate. And generally, RTI likes to step in before any student needs to be placed in special education. So now that we know what RTI stands for, I'm going to talk about my own personal learning experience with RTI. So in kindergarten, my mother tells me that I was fairly behind the rest of my classmates in reading. She said that while they were reading almost chapter books and complex sentences, I was still reading books like See, Spot, Run. It didn't affect me because I had no idea. I was 5 years old at the time. But I do remember as I got older, there were two ladies in my life, Mrs. Orr and Mrs. Neat, and they were my reading resource teachers. And I remember them so well because after usually language arts, me and a bunch of other kids would walk to, it was an entirely separate building, away from all the classrooms, and we'd walk to her class and we'd have reading resource. At that time, I thought I was in their class because I excelled at reading and reading comprehension, but little did I know it was exactly opposite. I was behind, and it was, I guess, difficult for me. Which makes sense because I do remember whenever we took standardized tests, my reading scores were always below average. So I did confirm with my mother that yes, they did let her know that they were going to be putting me in reading resource classes. And I don't remember the specifics of what exactly we did in that class. I just remember that it was a small group of us, and yeah, it was just a small group of us. That's all I remember about that class. But I can say that it was very effective because I went from being behind and then I actually caught up to being grade level. So I was caught up with the rest of my peers in whatever grade we were in, so 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And then eventually, once we got to intermediate and high school, I actually ended up passing a lot of them. So I ended up taking honors English for majority of high school. So I guess I'm living proof of how effective RTI can be, that if you step in early and you can prevent further, I guess you would call it, damage from happening. And I guess it goes to show that my learning experience went fairly well because of RTI. So I think that in any case, whether it be DI or RTI, if these tools are implemented effectively, then student learning is positive and we have more of it. I think that these two tools allow learning and teaching to be more personalized for each student. Take, for example, if you have a class where these tools aren't implemented. I'm thinking this class is going to be pretty monotonous and everybody's going to be doing the same thing. Whereas implementing these tools allows students to harness their individual learning abilities and allows them to excel accordingly. Because as we've talked about in previous blogs, that we all learn differently and not every two students is the same. So how do I think differentiated instruction affects the student learning experience? Well, I think that in my case, I coach gymnastics, so I use differentiated instruction all the time. I'm always constantly assessing students, breaking them up into groups by skill level and giving them all, a station to work on that's going to get us all to our overall goal of learning the required skill for that week or month or day or whatever it is. And I feel that using this technique of differentiated instruction, students, they're able to grasp the concept easy because it's like you're breaking down a concept for them and you're tailoring how you teach it to fit each individual need. And I only think that can do positive things for students.